Alright, here we go. Today, live review of the Signal Hill Founder Select Overproof Blended Canadian Whiskey. This is a sourced whiskey from some probably Ontario distilleries. But it comes from Signal Hill Spirits, I suppose, as you can probably surmise. In St. John's, Newfoundland. So it is a blended whiskey from Newfoundland, but it's not made in Newfoundland. 100%. It might be, maybe they blended it in Newfoundland. A cat butt is in this, I hope you guys are enjoying that cat butt. It is 56.3% ABV, 112.6 proof. It is non-chill filtered, but has had color added. And all I know about this is a mix of column still corn whiskey and pot still malt whiskey. So it's corn and malt, but I don't know what proportion or where it came from. And of course, non-age statement, but it's got 3 barrels. It's new charred oak, like bourbon, first fill ex-bourbon, and your favorite barrel and mine, ex-Canadian whiskey. There is ex-Canadian whiskey barrels involved. So that's pretty much all we know about this offer. There is a 40% alcohol version of this, but this is the overproof version. I have not tried the 40%, and it probably sucks, but we could try it. I think it's around still. This particular version, I don't know if you can get anymore. I don't think it's available near me anymore anyway. This is kind of more of a limited founder's release or something like that. But this also did win some kind of award. It won like blended Canadian whiskey of the year at the Canadian Whiskey Awards or something like that. I don't know. I don't put too much stock in that, but I bought it before I knew anything about its award potential. And of course, we'll rate this out of 100, 25 for aroma, 25 for palate, 25 for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal subjective opinion. And we'll try to not taste any cat butt while we're doing it. Hey, you. You want some of that? I don't think so. Alright, here's our unfortunately colored, not quite cask strength spirit. Again, I don't know why we picked 56.3. It doesn't say it's cask strength. It could be cask strength, but typically you would say cask strength on it. So since it says overproof, and again, OP or overproof just means it's over 100 proof. So 112.6 qualifies for overproof. Is the spinning pedestal new? No, I've had it for at least a year, I think. But I'm glad you like it. It's kind of light. It doesn't work that well because the whiskeys are too dark, but it does have one. But yeah. That is our coloration for a dyed whiskey with new charred oak, first fill ex-bourbon, and ex-Canadian whiskey. There's some of that weird cocoa note, so I'm just going to leave that for a minute. There's something weird about whiskeys right when you pour them. I don't know what it is, but to me there's a note that comes out of here right when you pour stuff that smells like cocoa powder, and I think it's ethanol. It's like maybe I've gotten to the point where ethanol doesn't burn my nostrils anymore, and I kind of can detect it as an aroma. But every single time, almost every whiskey, right when I pour it, especially if it's cask strength, I get this cocoa powder note, and I think it's ethanol. because that smells like cocoa powder right now, and it really shouldn't. So we're going to leave that for a minute. What I remember about this particular bottle is it kind of just tastes like liquid sponge toffee. That is my memory of it. I'm sure they say all kinds of things about caramel and oak and vanilla, but liquid sponge toffee is roughly kind of what I get out of this bottle in memory, which is really tasty. Like, it's really good. It's just one of those things where it's like, well, despite something being really good, that doesn't make it that interesting. It's kind of like, well, if you have some Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey, that's really not that interesting, especially knowing that they put artificial sweetener of some kind to arrive at the honey flavor. So we don't tend to rate tastes good, but not complex that highly. This one is also a bit sharp in my memory. Again, 56.3 is right around the proof point that I prefer. But I do tend to remember this being a little hot for that proof. Again, it all depends. We've talked a little bit before about how heat is detected when it comes to spirits, and you can have two spirits of identical proofs, and one will drink hot and one will drink not hot at all, and it has something to do, I think, with the remaining composition of the whiskey. So for example, if you have a very oily whiskey, that oiliness might insulate your senses a little bit from being roasted. So for example, when we tried kind of like a head-to-head a little bit, the really oily whiskeys tend to be less hot than the drier kind of spirits. But I don't know the science of that. Just that this one came across a little hot for 56 in my memory. There's some spiciness in there. Again, it's pretty sweet. Kind of like corn syrup. There is like a toasted malt, like roasted malt character about it as well. You can really detect that kind of corn grain, though. It says this corn whiskey is column still? Huh. There is something that is definitely like something that to me has to come from corn grain in here. Like the sweetness kind of feels like corn syrupy. There's also, again, like a roasted element, like roasted corn or roasted malt. All right. Here we go. Signal Hill Founder Select Overproof on the palate. Cheers. Absolutely tastes like Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskey that's not smooth. It's like a rough Canadian whiskey. So one of the things you associate with Canadian whiskey is like smooth, easy drinking, sweet, kind of creamy creme caramel kind of thing. And it has the same kind of sweet notes. You know, it has that kind of like creamy, sweet, slight molasses. Again, for me, sponge toffee, syrupy, creme caramel sort of kind of note. But instead of it being like, oh, so smooth, so easy to drink, goes down like water, it's it's got some heat to it. It's got some intensity to it. There's some fire in the belly. Like as soon as you get it over the tongue and into that back palate early finish, there's a warmth to it. It's a little bit intense on some of the, like, we'll say dark sweet notes, if that makes any sense. Like the really dark, like almost roasted sweet notes, like again, like dark sponge toffee or molasses, this sort of idea. Not oaky, really. Again, there is some amount of new charred oak in here, but I don't think it's that much. If I had to hazard a guess, you know, this does have some ex-bourbon in it, but if I had to hazard a guess, this is probably majority ex-Canadian whiskey barrel, which is fine by me. Now, there's no rye in here, so you're missing some of that maybe trademark rye spiciness from a Canadian whiskey. It's like a very intense Canadian whiskey that's had the rye notes, I guess, stripped out. It's all in on the, like, molasses sponge toffee intensity. A little bit hot on the nose, too. It doesn't drink as, you know, as tame as other whiskeys at this proof. It kind of drinks a little bit on the hot side. But not too complicated, right? Nothing complex going on here. Just straight up sweet, syrupy, but intense. Like, it's really tasty, but there's not much to it, you know? It just tastes like sponge toffee. I see on the back here they say something about our blending process results in deep layers of flavor for you to discover. Okay. Not in my personal opinion, but, you know, subjectivity, yeah, for sure. All right. Let's think about the aroma. A little hot. Again, syrupy, corn syrup. Like not maple, but yeah, just sweet sponge toffee, roasted malt. Like pleasant, like it's nice. If it wasn't like a little hot, it would be like perfect for like just dessert whiskey, I suppose. 15. All right. At 25 on the palate. Same, just again, sponge toffee, molasses. You might beg and get a spice in there. Strong intensity, but no real depth or breadth of flavor. It's hard sometimes with these because you want to like give it some points for being really intense and flavorful, but you also want to pull some points away for it being really too simple. So you end up somewhere in the middle, like 15, I think is fine again here too. All right. So out of 25 on the finish. You start off with some deep molasses notes. You get into that sponge toffee. Some like darker roasted kind of components. We'll call it roasted malt. Can't detect a barrel note at all, which is like weird. Like usually you get some kind of wood on the finish. Even a faint wood. Not there for me really. Just dark, sweet notes. Molasses, syrups, this kind of idea. Again, same kind of idea. It's like, this is a little better though. The finish is a little better than the palate. I'll go 16 on the finish. All right. Now out of 10, let's talk about the texture. Yeah, there's a real corny kind of note in here. Which you would think wouldn't be the case with a column still, but it's definitely got a big corn. Texture comes across kind of okay. Not watery, not particularly thick. Give it a 5, right down the middle. So out of 15, my personal subjective opinion with this Signal Hill Founder Select Overproof award-winning blended Canadian whiskey. I think ultimately it's really tasty. I think like someone who can take this level of heat will find that they're well rewarded with an intense sweet experience. I don't know how well it stands up to ice, I suppose. But it's kind of a weird odd duck of a whiskey because again, it doesn't have maybe the complexities and nuances that someone who's looking for an overproof whiskey might want. But it does provide a very like strong, sweet presentation, a certain intensity that would like drive away someone who is looking for just a sweet dessert kind of whiskey. So it's kind of in a weird, funky place. I guess for the maybe even for like the bourbon drinker who wants a high proof Canadian whiskey, maybe something like that. You know, you can take the proof. You know, if you can hang with 56% alcohol, you'll be rewarded with a very intense, flavorful Canadian whiskey. So long as you're not expecting, you know, find much in it and just try to find an intense sweet flavor. It's kind of like a dessert whiskey, really. It's just all syrups and creme caramel and molasses and sponge toffee and this kind of idea. It's not really got a lot of complexities to offer. But you know, it's not like any other whiskey that I've ever tried though in some way, because all these Canadians tend to be so soft and approachable that you don't often see them at this kind of robust proof. So that makes for an interesting experience. So overall, is this stand out enough to say it's a standout whiskey? Probably not, but it is doing its own thing in a kind of a nice way. We'll give it a 6. I think that's fair. 6 out of 15 for my personal subjective opinions. We got 30, 45. We got 50, 56, 57. 57 out of 100. And we call this good. It's good still. It's good. It's good. You know, and that's